Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. frontier and watched the stars through the big window. His ship had been traveling through space for 3 months now, looking for new worlds that humans could visit. Jake was a good captain. He had led many missions before this one. His crew trusted him to keep them safe. "Captain, we're getting something strange on our sensors," said Lieutenant Maya Brooks. She was the ship's tactical officer. Maya was smart and always paid attention to details. She had short black hair and wore the blue uniform of the Earth Space Navy. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of strange, Maya?" "Unknown ships, sir. 5 of them. They're big. Much bigger than our ship." Maya's fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "They're not like any ships in our database." Danny Carter, the chief engineer, looked up from his workstation. He was a tall man with red hair and grease stains on his hands. "Captain, those ships are putting out energy readings I've never seen before. Their technology looks way more advanced than ours." Dr. Lisa Wright, the ship's scientist who studied alien life, came onto the bridge. She was a small woman with blonde hair and curious green eyes. "Captain, I'm reading life signs on those ships. The beings inside are not human. This could be our first contact with a completely new species." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact was always dangerous. Humans had met several alien species before, but each time was different. Some aliens were friendly, others were not. "Maya, are their weapons powered up?" "I can't tell, sir. Their technology is too different from ours." The main screen flickered and suddenly showed a face that made everyone on the bridge step back. The alien was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Its face had no nose, just 2 holes where a nose should be. Its eyes were large and glowed with blue light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music, but cold and harsh music. "Small flesh creatures," the alien said. "I am War Commander Thexful of the Karathi Empire. You will stop your ship and prepare to be examined." Jake straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Frontier. We come in peace. We're explorers, not soldiers." The crystal alien made a sound. That might have been laughing. "Peace? How amusing. All creatures speak of peace until they learn what real power looks like. You will provide us with all information about your species, your technology, and your worlds." "We'd be happy to share some basic information in the spirit of friendly contact," Jake said carefully. "Perhaps we could meet and discuss trade or cultural exchange." "You misunderstand, flesh creature. This is not a request. This is a command from the Karathi Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your small, weak species will become the 18th. Maya whispered to Jake, "Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from their ships. If those are weapons, they could destroy us easily." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "Commander Thexful, we're scientists and explorers. We study the galaxy and learn about new life. Surely your advanced civilization values knowledge." "Knowledge? Yes, we value knowledge. We know that the strong rule and the weak serve. Your species appears very weak. Your ships are small. Your bodies are soft. Your technology is primitive. You will make adequate servants." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "We're not looking for a fight, but we're not looking to be anyone's servants either. Maybe we should just go our separate ways." "Impossible," Thexville said. The crystal being's eyes glowed brighter. "The Karathi Empire does not ignore new species. You will surrender now, or you will surrender after we demonstrate our power. The choice changes nothing except how many of your people die first." "Give us time to consider your offer," Jake said. "You have 1 of your months to prepare your surrender. Use this time to contact your leaders and explain their situation. When we return, we will accept your submission and begin the process of integrating your species into our empire." The screen went dark. The alien ships moved away, but not far. They stayed close enough to watch the human ship, but far enough to show they were not afraid. Doc Danny Carter shook his head. "Captain, did you see the size of those ships? Each one could probably take on our entire fleet. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours," Maya agreed. "Those energy readings suggest weapons we can't even imagine." Dr. Wright was already working at her science station. "I recorded everything about their biology and technology that our sensors could detect. These Karathi are unlike anything we've encountered. They seem to be silicon-based life forms, possibly evolved from mineral structures. Their society appears to be built around conquest and dominance." Jake sat down in his captain's chair and rubbed his forehead. "Maya, send an emergency message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made contact with a hostile alien empire that plans to invade human space in 1 month. Include all our sensor data on their ships and technology." "Yes, sir." "Should I also send the message to all human colonies?" "Send it to everyone. Every human world, every space station, every ship. If these Karathi are as powerful as they seem, we're going to need everyone working together." As Maya sent the urgent messages across human space, Jake stared at the alien ships on his screen. The Karathi had dismissed humans as weak and primitive. They thought they understood what they were dealing with. Jake had fought in the colony. Wars. He had seen what humans could do when they were desperate. The Karathi had conquered 17 other species, but those species had probably fought like the Karathi expected them to fight. Humans were different. When humans fought, they didn't follow rules. They didn't care about honor or tradition. They cared about winning and protecting their families. That the Karathi thought they understood combat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Danny, how long until we can get back to Earth?" Jake asked. 3 weeks at maximum speed, Captain." "Maya, plot a course for home. It's time to show our new friends what human hospitality really looks like." The U's frontier turned toward Earth, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the Karathi ships followed at a distance, confident in their superiority. They had no idea what was coming. Supreme War Leader Zexthel stood in the great crystal chamber on the Karathi homeworld of Kethmoran. The chamber was carved from a single giant crystal that glowed with inner light. Around him, other Karathi leaders sat in circles, their crystalline bodies reflecting a light in beautiful patterns. "The new species has been located," War Commander Zexthel reported through the harmonic communication system all Karathi used. His voice created musical tones that filled the chamber. "They call themselves humans. They are small, soft, and weak. Their technology is many cycles behind ours." Zexthel's eyes glowed with satisfaction. He was the largest Karathi in the chamber, his crystal body reaching nearly 3 meters tall. His surface showed the battle scars of 100 victories. "Tell us about their military capabilities." "Minimal," Zexthel replied. "Their ships are tiny compared to ours. Their weapons appear to be simple energy beams and explosive projectiles. They have no advanced shielding technology. Most interesting, they seem to fight without any sense of proper combat honor." Another war leader, Commander Veximer, leaned forward. "What do you mean by improper combat honor?" "I reviewed their military records, which they foolishly shared. During our meeting, their battles are chaotic. They do not issue formal challenges. They do not fight in proper formations. They attack from hiding places. They use deception and trickery. It is almost as if they do not understand the basic principles of warfare." The gathered Karathi made sounds of disgust. In their culture, warfare was an art form. Battles began with formal challenges. Opponents faced each other in organized formations. The stronger side was supposed to win through superior skill and technology, not through tricks and lies. How many worlds do they control? Zexthal asked. 47 colonized worlds and their home planet. Their population is spread thin across their territory. Most of their worlds have small populations and weak defenses. Excellent. This will be a quick campaign. How do you recommend we proceed? Zexthal. Crystal body shimmered as he accessed battle plans stored in his memory. We follow the standard conquest protocol. We approach their strongest worlds with overwhelming force. We demonstrate our power by destroying a few military targets. They surrender when they realize resistance is futile. The entire campaign should take no more than 3 cycles. Zexthal nodded. This was how the Karathi had conquered 17 other species. It was efficient and honored the ancient traditions of warfare. Prepare the 3rd conquest fleet. We will show these humans what real military power looks like. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Pete Rodriguez sat in the emergency meeting room, deep under the North American Defense Center. Around the table were the most important military leaders from every human world and space station. Admiral Kate Sullivan pointed to the holographic display showing the Karathi ships. Our analysis confirms what Captain Morrison reported. These aliens have technology at least 50 years ahead of ours. Their ships are faster, stronger, and better armed than anything we have. Defense Minister Alex Thompson rubbed his tired eyes. He had been in meetings for 3 days straight since the first contact report arrived. How many ships are we talking about? Intelligence estimates at least 200 major warships, plus support vessels, Admiral Sullivan replied. Our entire space navy has maybe 70 ships that could stand up to their smallest vessels. Colonel Sam Mitchell, the head of Special Forces, leaned back in his chair. So we can't fight them ship to ship. What about ground combat? The aliens are physically stronger than humans, Dr. Wright's report said from the display screen. Their crystal bodies are harder to damage than human flesh. They're about twice our size and much more durable. General Rodriguez looked around the table at the worried faces. Gentlemen, ladies, I know this looks bad, but remember, we're not the first species these Karathi have conquered. What do we know about how they fight? Colonel Mitchell pulled up another display. Based on Captain Morrison's observations and the historical data they provided, the Karathi fight very predictably. They believe in something they call combat honor. They announce their attacks. They fight in organized formations. They expect their enemies to do the same. That's their weakness, Rodriguez said. They've conquered 17 species by following the same pattern every time. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to play by their rules. Admiral Sullivan frowned. What are you suggesting, General? I'm suggesting we fight like humans, not like Karathi. We don't meet them in open battle. We don't announce our attacks. We don't fight fair. Alex Thompson looked concerned. Are you talking about guerrilla warfare? Against an interstellar empire? That's exactly what I'm talking about. We hide our military assets among civilian populations. We use fake distress signals to lure their ships into traps. We attack their supply lines with small, fast ships. We make them fight the kind of war they've never seen before. Colonel Mitchell nodded slowly. It could work. Their whole society seems built around predictable, honorable combat. If we refuse to fight that way, it might confuse them enough to give us an advantage. Admiral Sullivan pulled up star charts. We'd need to evacuate non-essential personnel from our border worlds. Turn those colonies into military bases with hidden weapons and supplies. We'll also need to train civilian populations in basic combat, Mitchell added. If every human settlement becomes a potential military target, then every human needs to know how to fight. Rodriguez stood up and walked to the large display showing human space. The Karathi think they're dealing with another species, like the ones they've conquered before. They expect us to line up our ships and fight them in open battle. When we lose, they expect us to surrender. Instead, Thompson asked, instead, we disappear. We scatter. We make every human world dangerous for them to occupy. We turn their strength against them. Dr. Wright's voice came through the communication system from her laboratory. General, I've been studying the biological data we collected on the Karathi. Their crystal structure makes them very strong, but it also makes them vulnerable to certain sound frequencies. We might be able to develop sonic weapons specifically designed to hurt them. Excellent. What else? Their society seems based on rigid hierarchy and predictable behavior patterns. Psychologically, they might not be able to adapt quickly to completely unexpected tactics. Rodriguez smiled for the first time in days. Then we give them something completely unexpected. Admiral Sullivan, I want you to prepare plans for hiding our fleet among asteroid fields and gas clouds. Colonel Mitchell, start training programs for unconventional warfare. Every human soldier needs to learn how to fight dirty. What about the colonies that can't be defended? Thompson asked. We evacuate who we can, but some people will choose to stay. Those who stay get trained in resistance techniques. The Karathi want to conquer human worlds? Fine, but they'll find that conquering and holding are two very different things. Admiral Sullivan looked at the timeline. We have 3 weeks before they return with their main fleet. Then we have 3 weeks to become something the Karathi have never faced before, Rodriguez said. They think they understand combat. They think they know how wars are fought. We're going to teach them that humans don't follow anyone else's rules across human space. The message went out. Military bases went into hiding. Civilian populations began combat training. Ships scattered to prepared hiding places. Weapons factories started producing new kinds of equipment designed specifically for fighting crystal aliens. The Karathi were preparing for another standard conquest. They had no idea they were about to encounter a species that would rewrite everything they thought they knew about warfare. Colonel Rachel Stone crouched behind the twisted metal remains of what used to be the main communications tower on New Kansas Colony. The farming world had been one of humanity's most peaceful settlements. Now it was about to become a battlefield. Colonel, the Karathi fleet just dropped out of hyperspace, reported Sergeant Mike Davis through her earpiece. 12 ships, just like intelligence predicted. Rachel looked through her binoculars at the sky. The alien ships were huge, their crystal hulls reflecting the light of New Kansas's sun. They moved in perfect formation, exactly as the reports from Earth had described. Remember, people, Rachel spoke into her radio to the scattered human forces hiding across the colony. Let them think we're running scared. Make them believe we're just another species that will surrender after they show their power. The Karathi ships began broadcasting their message across all frequencies. War Commander Thexfol's voice filled the air with its strange musical tones. Humans of this world, the alien announced, you have seen the power of the Karathi Empire. Your military forces will present themselves for formal challenge, or we will destroy your cities one by one until you surrender. Rachel almost laughed. The aliens really expected humans to line up their ships and fight like it was some kind of game with rules. All human ships, this is Colonel Stone, she broadcast on the military channel. Execute plan Rabbit Run. Make it look good. The few human ships that had been visible around New Kansas suddenly broke formation and fled in different directions. To the Karathi, it must have looked like panic. The alien ships immediately gave chase, just as the humans had hoped. Fish in a barrel, muttered Lieutenant Tony Martinez as he piloted his fighter toward the asteroid field where the real human fleet was hiding. Behind him, 3 Karathi ships followed. Thinking they were chasing a coward, Tony led them deep into the asteroid field. dodging between the floating rocks like he was desperate to escape. The Karathi ships, much larger than his fighter, had trouble following him through the narrow spaces. Now, Tony whispered into his radio, the asteroids exploded. What the Karathi had thought were natural space rocks were actually human ships with advanced camouflage. Dozens of fighters and frigates appeared from nowhere, surrounding the alien vessels. The lead Karathi ship tried to broadcast a formal challenge, but the humans didn't wait for speeches. They opened fire from all directions, using the asteroids as cover and attacking from angles the aliens couldn't defend against. Back on the mic, colony surface, Rachel watched as the sky lit up with explosions. The Karathi ships in orbit moved to help their trapped companions, but that was exactly what the humans wanted. Hospital ship Jenny's Hope to Karathi vessels came a broadcast from what appeared to be a medical ship approaching the alien fleet. We have wounded civilians who need evacuation, requesting permission to approach. The Karathi, following their honor code, allowed the hospital ship to come close. They would never attack a medical vessel carrying injured civilians. The hospital ship opened fire at point-blank range. Hidden weapons emerged from what had looked like medical equipment bays. The Karathi ship's shields, designed to stop attacks from a distance, couldn't handle weapons firing from inside their defensive perimeter. War Commander Dexval's voice crackled over the radio, full of confusion and anger. This is not proper combat. You attack without honor. You use deception and lies. This is war, Rachel replied coldly. There's no honor in conquest. The battle raged for hours. The Karathi had superior technology, but the humans refused to fight the way the aliens expected. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They used fake surrender signals to lure aliens into traps. They coordinated attacks through civilian radio networks that the Karathi couldn't monitor. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hughes led a boarding party onto a damaged Karathi ship. The aliens inside were twice the size of humans and much stronger, but they fought in predictable patterns. They expected formal duels and organized resistance. Instead, they found humans crawling through ventilation shafts, setting off explosives in critical systems and using the ship's own technology against its crew. Ryan's team had studied the Karathi ship designs and knew exactly where to hit them to cause maximum damage. They're not fighting like soldiers, one of Ryan's men observed as they watched a group of Karathi warriors trying to form a proper battle. Formation while humans attacked them from maintenance tunnels and behind equipment panels. Good, Ryan replied, planting another explosive charge. Soldiers follow rules. We're not soldiers right now. We're survivors. The tide of battle turned when Captain Jenny Walsh, piloting a damaged fighter, received a direct hit from a Karathi weapon. Her ship was dying, life support failing, but she was close to War Commander Dexval's command vessel. This is for every species you've conquered, Jenny broadcast as she aimed her fighter at the alien ship's bridge. No, Dexval's voice screamed over the radio. This is not honorable combat. You cannot sacrifice yourself for mere tactical advantage. Jenny's fighter slammed into the Karathi command ship at full speed. The explosion tore through the alien vessel's hull, killing Dexval and most of his command crew. The other Karathi ships, suddenly without their leader and facing an enemy that fought unlike anything they had ever encountered, began to retreat. Their formation broke apart as individual captains tried to escape the nightmare that the battle had become. Let them go, Rachel ordered as human ships moved to pursue the fleeing aliens. Let them report back to their leaders. Let them tell their empire what happens when they try to conquer humans. The Battle of New Kansas was over. The humans had won, but the cost was high. 23 human ships had been destroyed, and over 400 colonists had died. But for the first time in their history, the Karathi Empire had suffered a major defeat in the aftermath. Rachel walked through the colony's medical center, checking on the wounded. Dr. Lisa Wright, who had been transferred to New Kansas before the battle, was treating both human and Karathi casualties. "How are our prisoners?" Rachel asked. "Confused," Lisa replied. "They keep asking why we didn't fight properly. They can't understand why we use deception and ambush tactics. Their whole worldview is based on direct, honorable combat." Rachel looked at the injured Karathi warrior in the nearest bed. The alien's crystal body was cracked and damaged, but its eyes still glowed with intelligence. "Why do you fight without honor?" The alien asked in broken English. "Because honor doesn't protect our families," Rachel replied. "Because rules don't stop bullets. Because when someone tries to conquer us, we fight to win, not to look good doing it." The alien's eyes dimmed with what might have been understanding or fear. News of the victory spread across human space within hours. The mighty Karathi Empire, conquerors of 17 worlds, had been bloodied by a species they had dismissed as weak and primitive. But Rachel knew this was just the beginning. The Karathi would be back, and next time they would be angry. The question was whether humanity could keep fighting in ways the aliens couldn't predict or counterdot as she looked up at the stars where the Karathi fleet had vanished. Rachel smiled grimly. The aliens thought they understood combat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Supreme War Leader. Zextel stared at the battle reports from New Kansas and felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The crystal chamber around him seemed darker than usual, and the other Karathi leaders sat in silence. "Explain this to me again," Zextel said to the surviving ship captains. "How does an inferior species defeat a Karathi battle fleet?" Captain Rexthal's crystal body showed new cracks from the battle. "They did not fight as warriors should fight, Supreme Leader. They used deception. They attacked without issuing proper challenges. They sacrificed themselves for mere tactical advantage. They used medical ships as weapons," added Captain Nexval. "They violated every law of honorable combat. They fought like like animals." Commander Veximer leaned forward. "Perhaps we underestimated their technology?" "No," Rexthal replied firmly. "Their ships are still inferior to ours. Their weapons are weaker, but they coordinate in ways we cannot predict. They appear from nowhere and vanish before we can respond properly." Zextel's eyes glowed brighter with anger. "Then we will adapt. We will bring overwhelming force. We will destroy their ability to hide and trick us." "Supreme Leader," one of the younger commanders spoke up hesitantly. "What if their way of fighting is effective? What if we should learn from it?" The entire chamber fell silent. The suggestion was almost blasphemous. The Karathi had fought the same way for thousands of years. Their combat traditions were sacred. "Never," Zextel declared. "We are Karathi. We fight with honor, or we do not fight at all. We will crush these humans with pure strength. Prepare the first and second conquest fleets. We will bring 500 ships to human space and end this rebellion." Meanwhile, on Earth, General Pete Rodriguez sat in his command center, watching reports flood in from across human territory. The victory at New Kansas had inspired other species that the Karathi had conquered. "General, we're getting messages from the Alteron Republic," reported Colonel Sam Mitchell. "They want to know if we can teach them our fighting techniques." Admiral Kate Sullivan looked up from her planning tables. "The Centauri Trade Union is asking the same thing. Apparently, word is spreading that someone finally beat the Karathi in battle." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "How many species are we talking?" "About 12 so far," Mitchell replied. "All former Karathi subjects. They're willing to coordinate uprisings if we can show them how to fight effectively." "Do it," Rodriguez decided. "Send teams to each of them. Teach them everything we know about guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and unconventional tactics." Dr. Greg Foster, who had taken over xenobiology research after Dr. Wright transferred to the front lines, entered the command center carrying a datapad. "General, we've made a breakthrough with the sonic weapons. The frequency that disrupts Karathi crystal structure also affects their communication systems." "How so?" "The Karathi communicate through harmonic resonances. If we can broadcast the right sound frequencies, we can jam their communications or even cause them physical pain. We've developed portable sonic disruptors that any soldier can carry." Admiral Sullivan smiled. "That's the first good news I've heard all week. How quickly can we produce them?" "We're already manufacturing them on 12 different worlds. By the time the Karathi return, every human soldier will have one." Captain Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system from his position behind enemy lines. "Command, this is the frontier. I'm sending intelligence on Karathi fleet movements." "Go ahead, Jake," Rodriguez replied. "They're massing a huge fleet, over 500 ships. But here's the interesting part. They're arguing among themselves. Some want to change their tactics to match ours. Others refuse to abandon their traditional methods." "That's what we hoped for," Rodriguez said. "Their rigid culture is working against them. Keep monitoring and report any tactical changes." 2 weeks later, the human colony world of New Gibraltar prepared for the largest battle in human history. The planet was a fortress world, covered with military bases and defensive installations. But unlike traditional fortresses, New Gibraltar's defenses were hidden, and Mobile. Sergeant Major Kyle Washington crouched in a camouflaged bunker overlooking the main spaceport. Around him, his soldiers checked their equipment one final time. Each soldier carried the new sonic disruptors, along with conventional weapons. "Remember," Kyle told his troops, "the Karathi expect us to defend fixed positions. Instead, we let them land. Then we make the entire planet a battlefield. No safe zones, no rear areas, no sanctuary." The Karathi fleet arrived exactly as predicted. 500 massive ships that blotted out the sun. But this time, they didn't issue formal challenges or demand surrender. They simply began bombardment of known military targets. Admiral Sullivan, commanding from the hidden base ship UES Defiance, watched the bombardment through her sensors. "They're learning," she observed. "They're trying to destroy our military capability before landing ground forces." "Too bad we moved everything 3 days ago," replied Captain Morrison, whose ship was hidden in a nearby nebula. "All they're hitting are empty buildings and holographic projectors." The real human fleet struck from 5 different directions at once. Ships emerged from asteroid fields, gas clouds, and even from behind the planet's moons. The Karathi found themselves surrounded by enemies that appeared and disappeared like phantoms. But this time, the Karathi tried to adapt. Some of their ships broke formation and attempted to match human tactics. It didn't work. Their crews had trained for centuries in formal combat. They couldn't suddenly become guerrilla fighters. On the planet's surface, Kyle's forces let the Karathi land and establish what they thought were secure positions. Then the real fight began. The Karathi ground troops were strong and well equipped, but they expected to fight other soldiers in organized battles. Instead, they found themselves under attack from everywhere and nowhere. Human soldiers emerged from sewers, abandoned buildings, and hidden tunnels. "Where are their armies?" demanded Karathi ground commander Zaxful as his forces came under attack for the 100th time that day. "Why will they not meet us in proper battle formation?" His answer came when the humans activated their sonic disruptors. The sound waves that disrupted Karathi crystal structure filled the air, causing the alien warriors to stumble and cry out in pain. Their communication systems failed as the harmonic frequencies they used were overwhelmed by human noise. Kyle watched through his scope as a unit of Karathi soldiers tried to form a traditional battle line in the central plaza. Squad 2, are you in position? Roger that, Sergeant Major. We're under the plaza in the old subway tunnels. Light them up. Explosions erupted from beneath the Karathi formation. The aliens had no idea humans were using the city's underground infrastructure as a weapon. Streets became pitfalls. Buildings became sniper nests. The very environment turned against the invaders. The battle raged for 6 days. The Karathi had superior numbers and technology, but they couldn't fight an enemy that refused to stay in one place or follow any recognizable battle plan. On the 6th day, Supreme War Leader Zexthil himself arrived to take command. He had never personally led a battle before, always directing from his crystal palace. But the reports from New Gibraltar were so confusing that he decided to see for himself what these humans were doing. "This is chaos," he announced as he studied the tactical displays. "There is no pattern to their attacks. No strategy we can counter. They fight like madness itself." Supreme Leader, one of his officers suggested carefully, "Perhaps we should consider adopting some of their methods?" Zexthil's crystal body flared with angry light. "Never. We are Karathi. We fight with honor." But even as he spoke, Zexthul could see his forces being slowly destroyed by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. For the first time in Karathi history, retreat was not just possible, but necessary. "Signal all ships," he finally ordered. "We withdraw from this system." Kyle Washington watched the Karathi ships lift off from New Gibraltar's surface. Many were damaged. All carried fewer troops than they had landed with. "Think they learned anything?" asked one of his soldiers. Kyle spat into the dirt and checked his sonic disruptor. "They learned that humans don't fight fair. Whether they can do anything about it is another question." The Battle of New Gibraltar was over. Humanity had won again, but more importantly, they had proven that their first victory wasn't luck. The Karathi Empire, supreme military power in the galaxy, was losing a war to a species they had dismissed as primitive. Across Karathi space, other conquered species watched the news and began to wonder if freedom was possible after all. The empire that had seemed unstoppable was bleeding, and the humans were just getting started. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as her fleet approached the Karathi home system. Behind her ship flew 200 human vessels, along with ships from 12 other species that had joined the rebellion against the Karathi Empire. "Admiral," reported Captain Morrison from his stealth ship UES Shadow, "I'm in position near their outer defense grid. The Karathi have pulled back most of their fleet to defend their homeworld." "How many ships?" Sullivan asked. "Over 800. They've recalled vessels from across their empire. It looks like they're preparing for one final battle." General Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Kate, remember the plan. We don't attack their homeworld directly. We make the entire system unlivable for them." Sullivan nodded. The humans had learned that direct assault wasn't their strength. Instead, they would use the tactics that had worked at New Kansas and New Gibraltar, but on a massive scale. "All ships, begin Phase 1, Sullivan ordered. The human fleet scattered in every direction. To the Karathi, it looked like the humans were running away again. The alien ships gave chase, following what seemed to be the same pattern they had seen before, but this time the humans weren't leading them into asteroid fields or nebula clouds. They were leading them away from everything that mattered. Supreme War Leader Zexthil watched from his command ship as the human fleet fled in apparent panic. "Finally," he said to his officers, "they realize they cannot defeat us near our homeworld. Pursue them. Destroy them all." "Supreme Leader," one of his advisors said carefully, "this seems similar to their previous tactics. Perhaps we should maintain our defensive positions." "No," Zexthil declared. "We have 800 ships. They have barely 200. This time, we will end the rebellion once and for all. The Korathi fleet chased the human ships for 3 hours, moving farther and farther from their homeworld. They didn't notice. The small human infiltration teams that Morrison had landed on Kethmoran and the system's industrial station's Dr. Greg Foster led one of those teams. He and his scientists had been working on a special project for months, a computer virus designed specifically for Korathi technology. Their crystal-based systems were vulnerable in ways the aliens had never imagined. Remember, Foster told his team as they approached a major Korathi communication station, we don't destroy anything important. We just make it all work for us instead of them. The virus they planted spread through the Korathi communication network like wildfire. Within hours, every major system in the Korathi home system was under human control. Defense grids, manufacturing plants, even the lights in major cities now responded to human commands instead of Korathi ones. Phase 2 is complete, Foster reported to Admiral Sullivan. We own their infrastructure. Sullivan smiled grimly. Begin. Phase 3. Show them what happens when they chase shadows. The human fleet suddenly stopped running and turned to face their pursuers. But they weren't alone anymore. The Korathi defense stations that should have been protecting the homeworld were now firing on Korathi ships. Manufacturing facilities that had been building new weapons were now producing nothing but scrap metal. Zexthal stared at his displays in horror. This is impossible. How are they controlling our own systems? Supreme Leader, his communication officer reported with panic in his voice. We've lost contact with the homeworld. All our networks have been compromised. Then we fight without networks. We fight with raw strength. But the Korathi had built their entire military around centralized command and control. Without their communication systems, their formations fell apart. Ships that had trained to fight as a coordinated fleet were suddenly operating alone. The humans, meanwhile, were using short-range communication systems that the Korathi couldn't jam or hack. They swarmed around the confused alien fleet like angry insects, striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before the Korathi could respond. Captain Tony Martinez led a squadron of fighters against a massive Korathi battleship. Remember, target their communication arrays first. Blind them, then hurt them. His pilots followed the plan perfectly. The battleship, cut off from its escort vessels, tried to fight using traditional Korathi tactics. It turned to present its strongest weapons toward the human fighters. The humans ignored the strong weapons and attacked from behind and below, hitting systems the Korathi had never thought to protect properly. Within minutes, the massive ship was drifting helplessly on the surface of Kethmoran. Sergeant First Class Maria Gonzalez led a team of Special Forces soldiers through the crystal streets of the Korathi capital. Their mission was to capture the government buildings, but not in any way the aliens expected. Maria, this is crazy, whispered Corporal Steve Parker, as they moved through the beautiful crystal gardens that surrounded the Supreme Leader's palace. There are thousands of Korathi guards in there. That's why we're not going in the front door, Maria replied. She pulled out a small device that looked like a standard earth mining tool. Dr. Foster's team uploaded the building plans to our systems. Turns out this whole palace has a structural weakness. She placed the device against the base of the main crystal spire that held up the entire building. The sonic disruptor, modified to target the specific frequency of the palace's crystal structure, began to vibrate. You're going to bring down their most important building? Steve asked. Not bring it down, Maria corrected. Just make it really uncomfortable to live in. The sonic vibrations spread through the crystal structure of the palace. The Korathi inside began to feel pain as their own bodies resonated with the frequency. Guards abandoned their posts. Officials fled their offices. Within an hour, the most Important building in the Karathi Empire was completely empty. Supreme War Leader Zex Thul received the news while his fleet was still being torn apart by human attacks. His homeworld was in chaos. His palace was uninhabitable. His military was scattered and confused. This is not warfare. He screamed over the failing communication system. This is madness. This is dishonor. Admiral Sullivan's voice came through the static-filled radio. This is war, Supreme Leader. Your war. You started it when you decided to conquer us. We fight. With honor, we follow the ancient traditions. Your ancient traditions don't work against us. Surrender now, and we'll discuss terms. Zex Thul's crystal body flared with rage. Never. I challenge your leaders to single combat. Let this be decided by warriors, not by trickery. There was silence for a moment. Then Sullivan replied, Very well, single combat. You choose your champion. We'll choose ours. Zex Thul felt a moment of hope. Finally, a chance to fight with honor, the way warriors were supposed to fight. He would select his greatest fighter, defeat the human champion, and restore Karathi pride. I choose War Commander Zex Thul, our greatest warrior. Who do you choose? Sergeant First Class Maria Gonzalez. An hour later, in the crystal arena on Kethmoron that had been used for ceremonial combat for thousands of years, the two champions faced each other. War Commander Zex Thul stood 3 meters tall, his crystal body gleaming with inlaid weapons and armor. He was the strongest, fastest, most skilled warrior in the Karathi Empire. Maria Gonzalez was a small human woman who looked tiny next to the massive alien. She carried simple weapons and wore basic armor. To the watching Karathi, she looked completely outmatched. This will be over quickly, Zex Thul announced with satisfaction. The fight began with Zex Thul issuing a formal challenge and taking a traditional combat stance. Maria ignored the challenge and immediately attacked with her sonic disruptor. The sound waves hit Zex Thul's crystal body and caused him to stagger in pain. He tried to charge at Maria, but she had already moved. She didn't fight like a warrior. She fought like a human. Maria used the arena's environment against her opponent. She kicked sand in his eyes, used the walls to change direction suddenly, and attacked joints and weak points that Karathi combat training had never addressed. Zex Thul tried to fight honorably, following the ancient forms and techniques that had made him champion. But Maria didn't know those forms and didn't care about them. She kicked him in the back of the knees, threw rocks at his head, and used every dirty trick she had ever learned. The fight lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, the greatest warrior in the Karathi Empire lay defeated by a human who had refused to follow any of the rules he understood. Supreme War Leader Zex Thul stared at his fallen champion and felt something break inside his mind. Everything he believed about warfare, about strength, about honor was wrong. We surrender, he whispered. The surrender of the Karathi Empire spread across the galaxy within days. The species that had conquered 17 worlds had been completely defeated by humans and their allies. More importantly, they had been defeated by ideas that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship as they prepared to leave Karathi space. The crystal aliens were already beginning to release their conquered territories and negotiate peace treaties. Think they learned anything? Asked Lieutenant Brooks. Morrison looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Other powerful species were studying human tactics. Military academies were rewriting their textbooks. The rules of warfare that had remained unchanged for thousands of years were being thrown away.